What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So there's a lot of stuff to get into today. Xbox is breaking a record. There's ray tracing on the Super Nintendo. Cyberpunk talks more about their issues with the last generation consoles. And we're seeing our first glimpse into one of the best looking games so far in this next generation. And it gives us a look at what Xbox can do when games are really built for that console. But before we get into it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join this community if you enjoy this type of content and if you enjoy what you see throughout this video. And then we will have some great conversations in the comments below with everybody about what is going on in the video game industry. So let's jump into it. So Xbox has made history with a record-breaking video game display. And basically what they did is they went down to Colorado and they collaborated with snowboarder Grant Giller, and they created a massive screen on the side of Copper Mountain with the skyline of a 10-mile mountain range of Colorado behind it and everything. And they created a screen that was 180 by 105 feet. Now here's the picture of the screen. It's basically the snowboarder playing from quite a ways away, and there was a big projector projecting out into the night, and he's playing Destiny 2, and it's to celebrate the next generation upgrade for Destiny 2. And this is all in the Guinness Book of Records. So Xbox has put their name in the Guinness World Record books for this display. The Destiny 2 in general, the next generation upgrade, I have to say, has been one of the best next generation upgrades on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, because it plays in a good 60 FPS. It's solid, it's steady throughout your gameplay. On the Xbox Series X, you get it in 4K. On the Xbox Series S, you're getting it in 1080p. But even on the Xbox Series S, I've been using my S a lot to play Destiny 2 on a 65-inch screen TV, and I think it looks great and it runs smoothly, and at 60 frames per second literally just makes a brand new gameplay experience when you're playing Destiny. It is such a jump and such a leap from 30 FPS to 60 FPS, especially in a first-person shooter. So if you haven't checked out Destiny 2 yet, I would highly suggest checking out the next generation upgrade for it. I'm loving it right now, and I'm playing more Destiny now than I have previously because of those 60 frames per second. Next up we have here is a really interesting story. I really want to talk about it because I think it's just extremely cool, because we're in a console generation now where the big selling point and big marketing thing for the PS5 and for the Xbox is ray tracing. Now the Super Nintendo, which is a console from the 90s, I don't know how old everyone who's watching this video is, but I completely remember the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite consoles of all time. And the graphics within the Super Nintendo still age very well today. You still see games that are being made similar to graphics that are used in the Super Nintendo, but they seem to have enhanced it now by actually adding real-time ray tracing to the SNES. Now this was achieved by programmer Ben Carter, and he says that it was done by a chip he's calling the Super RT. Now basically, he achieved this through using the Famicom, which is the Super Nintendo in Japan, but it is all of the same hardware. It just has a different exterior shell and looks different for the market in Japan. When the Super Nintendo came out, Nintendo basically had the Super Nintendo that they gave to North America and the Super Nintendo that they gave to Japan, and they based the design off of how those different countries, how those different market bases would react to design and what they liked. Now all of the processing of this ray tracing for the Super Nintendo is actually being done by adding this chip to a cartridge that you put into the Super Nintendo. And this isn't the first time this actually has been done before. So with games like Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, it was a 3D game, and the majority of games on the Super Nintendo were side scrollers, 2D sprites, stuff like that. And those graphics have aged very well because a lot of games still actually use those style of graphics for games that we play today. But for a game like Star Fox, they had to add a chip called the Super FX chip to achieve the graphics for Star Fox. Now Star Fox, if you look at those graphics, you would probably think right now they were very rudimentary, but for that time it was pretty awesome to see that you were playing a 3D game on the Super Nintendo. And this ray tracing thing is actually absolutely insane. He actually has a video on YouTube here explaining exactly how he does it. I will link that in the description below, but I would love to see this technology somehow being added to other Super Nintendo games and seeing how much it actually enhances those graphics. I think like a game like Star Fox, if it had this technology, it would have greatly appreciated the way that it would make it look, especially because of, like I said, how rudimentary the graphics were. for now, but for back then they were pretty cool. But yeah, this is a really cool thing. I think that this is something that is actually insane to see 30 years after the Super Nintendo was released. So by now everybody knows what's going on with Cyberpunk and the mess of a launch this game has been, especially after the amount of hype there was for Cyberpunk 2077, the amount of praise that CD Projekt Red was receiving, and just the amount of trust gamers had in the developer. So we're finding out a bit more information as to why there's such a big difference and why the old generational PS4 and Xbox One versions of the games just are performing so poorly. It's basically that they just didn't spend enough time working on the game, and they were too focused on releasing it for the PC and for the current gen consoles. So they had a conference call the other day with investors, and it can be listened to. So if you're really interested, that link is in this article here. And this is what they had to say about what is going on. After 3 delays, we as the management board were too focused on releasing the game. We underestimated the scale and complexity of the issues. We ignored the signals about the need for additional time to refine the game on the base last gen consoles. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious that they definitely ignored the fact that this game needed to be delayed again, even with the amount of backlash it would have received, even with the amount of anger that would have come from fans. Delaying this game again was the right decision, and it would have made for a much smoother and a much better launch. And they would have saved a lot of reputation points from gamers. They go on to say here, it was the wrong approach and against our business philosophy. On top of that, during the campaign, we showed the game on PC, which caused loss of gamers' trust and the reputation that we have been building to be a big part of our lives. And yeah, like I said, their reputation has just taken a massive hit from this. And is it deserved? I mean, yeah, because this game has been hyped up for so many years and they got the benefit of the doubt with everything. They really could do no wrong. And they kept delaying the game, which I didn't think was a big deal. I know a lot of people get really annoyed with delays or they get hurt with delays, but I mean, there are so many games. I really think that people are excited for games, yes, but there's always something, no matter what genre you like, really, there's always something that can hold you over until that next game. I mean, at least for me, I may be being naive with this, but I definitely have patience when it comes to stuff like this. I will wait. I just want the best product possible when it is launched, so things like this don't happen. Continuing here, and that's why our first steps are solely focused on regaining those two things. We are concentrated on fixing Cyberpunk 2077 on last gen consoles. The first substantial set of fixes was released over the weekend. The next set of fixes will be released within the next 7 days. Big updates are planned for January and February along with smaller fixes. Of course, PC gamers will also be getting regular updates and fixes to improve the game. We'll do everything possible to prove that we stick to our values. We truly hope that our efforts will let us rebuild the trust we have lost. Now, I think overall, once the fixes are released, once the updates are on the game, and it is proven that the PS4 and the Xbox One versions run properly, there's much less bugs. I do honestly believe that the reputation for CD Projekt Red will improve and they will kind of get closer to where they were before this fiasco. And the reason I say that is because in general, from what I've been hearing, now I haven't played the game yet because I do not want my experience through, but from what I have been hearing about the game in terms of its actual gameplay and story and writing, is that it is very good. It is what we expect from CD Projekt Red. And I think at the end of the day, that will win gamers over. There will obviously be a core group of people who are going to be so disgruntled with what has been going on, and rightfully so, because of the delays, because of how they have been handling even the returns. We've been hearing stories about the fact that they didn't really let everybody know, like Sony and Microsoft, about these return policies, or about the fact that they were wanting people to go ahead and return, and they're reaching out to Sony, they're reaching out to Microsoft, and the reps there that are having to deal with this are having to tell customers that they can't refund their games, and then they're getting shit for that. But it's not really Microsoft or Sony's fault, it is still CD Projekt Red's fault. So I mean, that is also another big issue that really has been hurting their reputation. But at the end of the day, I still think once everything's fixed, once the waters have settled and the fires have died down, I think the reputation is going to continue to build back up, especially if they continue to add to this game with great DLC and great story and stuff like that. I mean, if a company like EA can at times survive the amount of hate that they receive and the reputation hits that they receive. I'm sure CD Projekt Red can, but that's not me making excuses for anything they have done. They've really handled this entire situation poorly from the release, with the bugs and the overall delays, not being transparent with the console versions of the games, all the way to getting consumers to try to get refunds in the way they're handling that. They really want people to just keep the game and wait for those updates. For me personally, I am not going to touch it or purchase it or anything until everything has been fixed. My Amazon order originally with Cyberpunk actually got delayed and then got canceled for some reason. But anyways, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to pick it up or anything until everything has been fixed. Finally, we end off here with some awesome news for Gears 5 Hivebusters DLC. It is looking like it is one of the best looking games for the Xbox Series X and even the Xbox One. Now, the coalition, the developer behind Gears, I mean, they should be giving some lessons to CD Projekt Red on how to create a game that looks as good as this on older generation hardware. I know that's not exactly how it works. I know there's a lot of things that go into it, so don't jump on me for that. But it's just crazy how good this game is apparently looking on the Xbox One, and it's giving us a glimpse of just how great games can look on the Xbox Series S and X. So there's a ton of pictures and screenshots on this website. I mean, if you have Xbox Game Pass, you can go through and you can just play the game and see it for yourself. It's also going to be $20. If you don't have Xbox Game Pass, you won't have that. You'll have to pay for it, but apparently it's only 3 hours, so I don't know if it's even really worth $20 for the length of the game, but for the actual visuals itself, it does seem like it kind of is. And it's crazy because they are still using the older engine, and it's very exciting because once they move on, let's say for the next Gears game or for any other games that the coalition may work on, they move on to Unreal 5. You know, this developer is going to create some of the most beautiful, best looking games on the next generation, just with the fact of what they are able to do with this DLC, and even with just Gears 5 in general. It was one of the best looking games in the last generation. That's really exciting stuff. If anybody asks you, show me what games can look like on the Xbox Series X, show me a next generation game, you should show them this and then tell them that this is also on the Xbox One, because they won't believe you. And it really just, to me, shows that the cross-generational stuff, something being on the Xbox One and something being on the Series X at the same time, doesn't really hold back that next generation console and can be done at a high degree with high fidelity. Like I've said in previous videos, I think the biggest determining factor on how all of these games look across generations of consoles is the amount of resources and the amount of time that developers have to actually optimize these games for every single generation for PC and stuff like that. So Gears 5 DLC Hivebusters, go download it right now if you haven't. Check it out. I think you'll be pretty blown away in how it actually looks. So anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about all of this stuff in the comments below. Let me know what you think about Xbox making history. Let me know what you think about the Cyberpunk ordeal and how they've handled everything and what they're doing, and if you think they're going to be able to regain their reputation. Let me know what you think about ray tracing on the Super Nintendo and how cool that is. And let me know if you've played the DLC for Gears 5. I would love to hear all your thoughts and comments, and we will have a great discussion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you enjoy this style of content, hey, please consider subscribing to help this channel grow, help grow this community. I would love to create just a big, awesome community where we have some fun, interesting conversations in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.